Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Hope you're doing well. Just realized I hadn't loaded up the little guide we have every day, the overview we have to what we're going to talk about on the show. So I'm doing that right now. So I apologize for a little bit of a slow start. Again, I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Thanks for joining me today here on the show. We're here with you every day, Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, talking fantasy sports. Pre-show, as you're obviously aware, because you're watching it or listening to it for free. And you can watch or listen to it. That is an option for you, and I don't know if everyone knows that. You probably do at this point, but just a quick reminder, we go through it every day at the start of the show. Go to FantasyGuru.com, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. You can find the show catalog. Type in Fantasy Sports Daily to wherever you listen to podcasts, and that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, YouTube Music. Type in Fantasy Sports Daily there. You'll be able to find us. You can also watch the show live or on demand at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Twitter X @FantasyGuru site, and on Facebook at facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. Any of those three places you can watch live or on demand. You can also leave comments and questions throughout the show so we can actually address things in real time. So take advantage of that. Again, I'm Ray Flowers. You can follow me on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all those places @the Ray Flowers. The scrolls were a big discussion yesterday on the Elite Sports Show. If you want to check that out, check out my Twitter feed. There's a couple of cool pictures from that. There's also my Instagram account @the Ray Flowers. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, that's because you probably didn't listen to the show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. We've got this show 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. Monday through Friday, Jeff Mann's got the Elite Sports Show 3 to 6. On Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff, so I was on with the show with him yesterday. And then Justin Fensman and I are on Elite Sports Game Time, 8 to 10 Eastern in the evening. So 3 ways to listen to the show, or the people providing you the information at FantasyGuru.com. 1 here for free, 2 on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Here is that outline that I was talking about throwing up as we were getting the show going today. Rainouts. They're part of our lives. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few moments. Marcelo Mayer, Addison Barger, Cody Bellinger, Aaron Judge. Have you noticed how terrible he's been of late? We'll talk about it. Connor, Norby, Wyatt, Langford. Pitching side of things, Michael King, Cole Ragans, not good news. Good news was Scherzer and Luis Heel. Eduardo Rodriguez, Taj Bradley, and Carlos Estevez. Some good, some bad on the hill. We'll then talk in about 25 minutes with Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com. You hear him here every Thursday. We have our guest join us Tuesday through Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Thursday's Tyler's day. He'll come in. He'll talk a little bit more about best ball, which is his thing. He's got a whole best ball guide in the product over at FantasyGuru.com right now. We'll give him a chance to talk a little bit about that. And I'll spend a lot of time talking wide receiver position with him today. He obviously does best ball. He obviously does wide receivers. He breaks them all down in season, but he's just an all-around football guy. But we'll tap into that wide receiver piece, something that he's tasked with covering throughout the season. Discuss situations like the Browns, the Bills, the Texans, the Raiders, the Vikings, and the Giants is among the discussion points that we'll have today. Don't forget, you can go to FantasyGuru.com right now and get signed up for any of the products we have. The baseball product is one package right now. So get signed up. Seasonal, DFS, and wagering, all of it combined in one package over at FantasyGuru.com. If you click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, you can sign up for the football package. And I know this is something we talk about a lot here, but we're really excited about the product. We want you to be successful in 2025 to get you involved with us over at FG. So sign up. You can sign up for the DFS account. You can sign up for a gambling account. You can sign up for a seasonal account. All 3 of those are available right now. You can bundle them together, become a VIP Platinum member, get everything we do for fantasy football. You can do that. You can always send a note to support@fantasyguru.com, support@fantasyguru.com. Realize that the product is a full season product. It's not just a preseason product. We've got rankings. I talk about them all the time. You can see them there on the screen. PPR, non-PPR, dynasty, rookie, IDP, best ball, auction guide. I'll be writing about that. Justin Festerman as well. We'll be doing 20 podcasts. We'll have our training camp day where we spend like 12 hours talking football all day with you, doing a live stream just like this show. You can get an access to the Elite Sports Mafia games. Yeah, that's part of the package too. You can get involved there with us and play against the folks that host and do the work over at fantasyguru.com. So get signed up right now. Support at fantasyguru.com. Or just click that tab in the top right corner. All right, let's do it. Let's talk some baseball. It is extremely tough to do my job, and it's extremely difficult for you to have fun when the weather continues to impact what we're doing on a daily basis. Yesterday, there were 3 rainouts. Detroit's game was rained out with Tariq Skubal. Both Chicago games were rained out. The Reds game went 6 innings and they called it. So if you're in one of these leagues that gives points for complete games, Nick Lodolo actually got a complete game. So I guess that's good for you because he obviously was very unlikely to throw 9 innings. But he got a complete game yesterday. Yes, I can consider and complain about the rain. Yes, I consider and say, play the games on the West Coast, get a roof, all these kind of things. We've talked about this stuff. I wanted to spend just a few moments talking about another angle here, one that I haven't mostly talked about because I've been frustrated with the weather. We have to factor in how the weather impacts us in the fantasy game. Like, it's not just, oh, they're still going to play the game. Oh, it'll be fine. It's really not. What happens is teams end up having double headers. Oftentimes, a player that would play, let's say, on a Wednesday and a Thursday might only play one game on the Thursday doubleheader. So you actually could lose at bats. You could lose an entire game. That's something to factor in. Secondly, the way pitching goes, I mean, if you've got to throw 19 innings or 18 innings in a day, excuse me, and your starting pitcher is getting hit hard, your starting pitcher might just have to take it, right? It might be one of these games where it's 8, 9, 10 runs because they need to get depth because they can't afford to have their bullpen throw 14 innings in one day, right? So a bad effort by a starting pitcher could end up being a really bad effort because you're playing a doubleheader. There's also the fact that maybe the doubleheader is scheduled for the next day, but sometimes the doubleheader is scheduled for July or August or even September. If you're in a head-to-head scenario and you're planning on getting 6 or 7 games from your player this week, you're planning on getting a start or 2 from your pitcher this week, it does you absolutely no good to have the game moved to August. In fact, it hurts you. So it's not just as simple as me being frustrated. Oh, the weather sucks. Arr. Yeah, it does. But there are significant fantasy impacts here, not the least of which being the rotation obviously can get changed. So just wanted to, because I see a lot of people, no big deal, we'll get at it tomorrow. Yeah, but it's not the same. It's just not the same. There are absolutely games lost when doubleheaders are played. Absolutely. A guy, again, could play Wednesday and Thursday, but maybe not twice on the Thursday. Absolutely loses you games, loses you at bats, plate appearances, especially if you're in a head-to-head scenario. Like in a roto league, you recapture it in August, it's okay. Now, it's okay, but what if your guy's in a nice groove now and in August he's in a funk? But at least you recapture it then. In a head-to-head setup, this is death because it messes up the starting pitching schedule and you might lose those plate appearances that you were expecting. Let's talk about some other players. We've talked a lot about the Red Sox lately, obviously with the move of Devers to the Giants. We've talked about that here on the show. There's an article over at fantasyguru.com talking about it as well. Marcelo Mayer is a really fascinating guy, and we talked about this too. I believe it was yesterday, where the Red Sox are, they're playing Marcelo Mayer and Roman Anthony, but they're platooning him. And is that the right decision? I would like to see him just play him against every pitcher, not do the platoon thing, but at least they're both playing against righties. Marcelo Mayer hit a home run yesterday, walked. And that's 4 home runs for him. And I don't think he even has 75 plate appearances. Like, he's done a really good job. Really good job. And not just that, he's mashing the baseball. Let's pull up his hard hit rate. Like, Mayer obviously has power. Obviously, he's looked at as, potential all-star caliber performer. This is not surprising at all. But he has 4 home runs in 59 at-bats, and his hard hit rate is 60%. That's huge. Exit velocity is almost 93 miles an hour. That's huge, too. He has done an excellent job. Now, he might be hitting 220 with a 750 OPS, and it's kind of boring. But those under-the-hood numbers are pretty impressive. And you don't hit the ball that hard and struggle for very long at the big league level as long as you make contact. That's been the issue for him in the early going, a 31% strikeout rate. So provided he can cut that strikeout rate down, likely to be a lot of success in the future of Marcelo Mayer. Addison Barger went 3 for 4 yesterday, a couple of doubles, a walk, a run scored. This has gotten really interesting very quickly. Now, Barger was a guy that no one was really in on at the start of the season. Then he started having some nice games, and then the storyline broke that, well, he kind of went back to his old swing, kind of retooled things here in the offseason, and good things are starting to happen. He's played outfield 17 times. He's played third base 35 times, so he's likely dual position eligible in your setup. He's got his OPS this season up to 850, and he's hitting second or third in this lineup for the Blue Jays. He's hitting either between or around Bichette and Guerrero, and he's doing a really good job. And not a lot of people are giving him the credit I think that Barger deserves, so let's give it to him on this show. He's got, again, that OPS up to 850. The last month, the OPS is 975. The last week, it's 1,200. He has done an excellent job. And again, he's not hitting down the order. He's hitting top third of the order. So he is somebody that's been obviously picked up, I think, in most leagues. Though I'm looking at RT Sports right now. He's only rostered in 46% of their leagues. I don't know. Check your waiver wire. If he's on your league's waiver wire, maybe you make the move. He's done an excellent job, and his spot in that batting order is very attractive moving forward. Before we talk a little bit about Cody Bellinger and the Yankees, a couple of notes here. Eddie G says, I'm a VIP member. Great contact. Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate that. Thank you for your subscription and your confidence in us. Tony W says, I'm a VIP member. I want to thank you for all your hard work and insight in seasonal DFS. I read everything you write and list as much as I can. Thank you, Tony. Well, Tony, thank you. Really nice to hear that. There's always some difficult times as a fantasy analyst, and people calling you names, making fun of you, picking on you, saying you suck. That's just kind of unfortunately the nature of the beast. It shouldn't be, but it is. So it's really nice to hear someone say, "Hey, I appreciate you." And hey, I don't always make the right call, don't always make the right decision. Sometimes I get bad advice, but as you're aware, Tony, that it's not because I'm not unprepared. It's just sometimes things don't work out, right? I very rarely, if ever, willy-nilly answer anything. I always think about everything. Excuse me. Always diligently try to provide the best information I can so you can have success, and I appreciate the kind words, Tony. Thank you very much. Okay, so Yankees here. Cody Bellinger went 2-4 last night with the home run. And, Bellinger, Bellinger's been okay. I think that he was a very difficult player to get a handle on. We talked about him a lot in the preseason. By the way, he's played outfield all season. He'll play 2 games at first base. So he looks like he's just going to be outfield eligible next year. But he's been different. He's been a extreme power hitter. He's been a batting average guy. He's been a stolen base guy. It's all over the place with him. We all know that. And, coming into this season, going to the Yankees, it's like, that's a good place to hit, good lineup. I think it was very easy to look at what he did last year and say he's likely to repeat that. Does that mean he returns to 2023 levels when he killed it? So where are we at here about 70 games into his season? He's hitting 250, 10 home runs, 7 steals, 37 RBIs, 37 runs scored. So he's basically on pace as a hitter to be the same guy he was last year. And the speed piece is kind of back. Again, he stole 9 bases last season. He's on pace for about 18 steals this year over the course of a full season. So we're not going to get there most likely because he's only played 67 games. But he's, a little bit power speed, run production. He's had a very good season. And it's again, I think that very good season. He's had a good season. Very good is probably a little too much. He's had a good season. Hasn't hit much here the last couple of weeks, so it was nice to see him have that big game yesterday. Got a 720 OPS the last month. Still has 3 home runs and 3 steals. 15 steals would be nice. We just talked about it. So he's okay. He's been fine. And he's kind of important right now because the next guy we want to talk about is Aaron Judge, who has been spectacular. Aaron Judge's season to date has been fantastic. But we had a big problem with Aaron Judge. Obviously, regression was going to happen. Obviously, he's not going to hit 400. Even though he struggled here the last couple of weeks, he's still hitting home runs, still got a 500 slugging percentage the last 2 weeks. Okay, so let's not. We got a significant problem with Aaron Judge, and that is the fact that he's not putting the ball in play at extreme levels, too. Over his last 72 at-bats, he struck out 32 times. It's worse than that. Over his last 41 at-bats, he struck out 22 times. So over his last 41 at-bats, Aaron Judge has struck out more than half the time, which leaves him with a K rate of 49%. Wow. like we talked, and I mentioned this last night on the Elite Sports Show on Sirius XM. We talked all along about the start of the season with Rafael Devers when he was 0 for 19 with 15 strikeouts. Aaron Judge has got 22 strikeouts and 41 at-bats. It's not to the level of Rafael Devers, but it's scary bad. He is in a funk. So he'll pull out of it. And again, there's no doubt about that. But I think this is always the concern we have when a guy has been as good as Judge is and they're otherworldly for such a long period of time. Like he stunk, like I'm talking about. He's still in 366. Still has a 1200 OPS. Like these are still spectacular numbers. The batting average is going to fall another 40 points if everything goes well. If things go kind of, that batting average falls 80 points maybe, right? So that's the legit concern here. How far will that batting average fall and how quickly will it fall? Unless he starts making better contact. Now, again, his 25% strikeout rate is really where he's been the last 3 or 4 years. Like it's right there because he was so good at making contact early. But just pointing out, really in a funk right now. Hits the ball, still hits home runs because he smashes the ball as hard as anyone ever. But that is a extremely high strikeout rate, something to keep an eye on. Connor Norby went 1 for 3 at the home run last night. I wanted to check in on Norby, one of the youngsters who obviously used to be part of the Orioles organization, now is the third baseman of the Miami Marlins. We're, 51 games into his season. He missed some time with injury, and it's been disappointing. You know, he's on pace for 15 home runs and 60 RBIs. Ugh, that's not what we expected to see. He's done a good job cutting the strikeout rate. It was 33%, which is not tenable last year. This year it's 28%. Still high, but okay, that's doable. Batting average, same as last year. On base percentage is the same as last year. On base percentage is 296. Again, not good. But he's not driving the baseball. So let's look a little bit deeper. His exit velocity numbers are poor. Less than 88 miles an hour, so below the league average with exit velocity. 9.3% barrel rate, slightly above the league average. That's okay. 36% hard hit rate, slightly below the league average. Not really okay. Part of the reason that these numbers aren't great is he's got a fly ball rate of, 37%, which is not a bad number at all. If he's in the 40% range, given his overall game, that's fine with me. But, when you hit some fly balls, you can hit some lazy fly balls that might drop your hard hit exit velocity numbers a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, he just really hasn't had that streak yet. And maybe he'll have that streak where he gets hot and it's 4 home runs in 3 weeks and here we go and everything's okay. But to date, he's just been a guy, and that's disappointing. Connor Norby should be more than just a guy. He really should. And this year he's been just a guy. We're now 96 games into his career, 13 home runs, hitting 241. I expect more from Connor Norby. Let's keep an eye on how he does here the next couple of weeks heading into the All-Star break to see if he can start to produce like the player that we believe he could be. Christy asked the question here in the chat. Ray, who do you like better the rest of the season between Barger or Cam Smith, both are third base and outfield eligible? Boy, Cam Smith, I can't get away from Cam Smith, can I? We talked about Cam Smith on the show yesterday. Chris broke him down, wrote about him, linked to the conversation yesterday in the rookie article yesterday over at fantasyguru.com. This is a tough call. Two dual position eligible guys, 2 youngsters. I think Cam Smith long-term would be the answer. This year, I'm going to go Barger. Because again, it's hard to get around where he's hitting in that lineup with the Toronto Blue Jays. Like Cam Smith, he's done much better of late after that slow start. Still not driving the baseball, often hits a little bit down in the order. I'm going Barger. Tough call. Could be the wrong call. But again, Barger's been hot of late. He's actually been very good for a longer period of time, hitting in the top third of the order. All those pieces, to me, are more indicative of potential success than Cam Smith, who I also noted yesterday, Cam Smith not driving the baseball against right-handed pitching at all. I think he's got 1 home run against righties this year. So I'll go with Mr. Barger of the Blue Jays. Next up here, Wyatt Langford. Wyatt Langford went 3 for 5, couple doubles, run scored RBI yesterday. Over the last week, he's hitting 310 with an 877 OPS, which is good to see because Wyatt Langford has been in the funk like many of his Rangers teammates have. The whole team is starting to hit a little bit more. You don't score 16 runs twice in a week without having some guys hit, right? Overall, you look at the performance of Wyatt Langford, and, it's fine. I expected more than fine. I think you probably did too. Now, you're really good when he's been fine effort is actually a 2020 season. But right now, his performance looks very much like Randy Arozarena, which, again, for a guy in his second season in the big leagues, it's not bad. But he's he's better than that. He should be better than that. His walk rate is still solid, which has allowed his on-base percentage to be slightly above the league average, even though he's only hitting 240. Strikeout rate of 25% is a way up from last year, but still it's a fine number. The batted ball data, exit velocity's up, barrel rate's up, hard hit rate's up. All these things are good news, right? He just hasn't had that streak, though. I attribute that a lot to his teammates, right? It just hasn't come together. Excuse me. It just hasn't come together. Obviously, he's a player that I would continue to maintain the faith in. If you have him, keep rolling him out there. You're pretty good again when you're on a 2020 pace and no one's really talking about you. Talk some pitchers. Michael King's got a pinched nerve. His manager, Mike Schilt, yesterday said he's throwing those plyo balls lightly and maybe some baseballs here and there. He's not in shutdown mode, but he's not to the point, Michael King, of progressing to the point where he's getting up on the mound and doing it. He's not going to be back until after the All-Star break. That's basically the upshot of what Mike Schilt said yesterday. So he's basically out at least another month. And, since the start of last season in particular, he's been so good, so consistent, quality start every time out. You're going to have to continue to wait with him. And hopefully we'll get some good news with Michael King. But even the good news likely means he's back after the All-Star break. Let's hope he's back right after the All-Star break, and he can ramp up his throwing progression so that's a possibility. At this point, we're hoping it's right after. We don't know how far after, though. Cole Ragans has got the shoulder issue. I guess this news is being spun as a positive. He got a second opinion this week and confirmed the diagnosis of a left rotator cuff strain, so nothing is broken per se. Nothing surgically is expected at this point in time. Good news. He's not going to throw for at least 2 more weeks, though. So he obviously won't be back until after the All-Star break as well. We talk about this a lot. He's already missed some time. He's already missed a couple of weeks here. He's not going to throw for another couple of weeks. Then he's going to probably take 3 or 4 weeks to get back up. So hopefully he's back in July. We might be looking at August for Cole Ragans. And no, he's another one of the high-level pitchers that people drafted to build their staff around, who's just not going to deliver this year. Hopefully he'll come back in August. In August and September, be a banger, right? But right now, uncertainty with when exactly he'll be back, and expectations right now have to be tempered with Cole Ragans. Max Scherzer, we finally getting Max Scherzer news. It's positive. It seems that way. Since the start of last season, we've had a lot of moments where it seems positive with Max Scherzer. A lot of moments where it's been, we're ready to go, and then it's followed immediately almost by, oh, crap. So it's really tough to get excited about Max Scherzer. He's been dealing with that thumb injury for a long time now, a lot longer than anyone anticipated he would be. But he made a start yesterday at AAA, threw 4 1/3 shutout innings and had 8 strikeouts. So he dominated. He should have success against AAA guys. Dominated them, though, yesterday. Hit 94 miles an hour on his fastball and averaged about 93, which is good news because he was 90-91 a lot earlier this season. So seems like he's healthy. And we have seen many times with Max Scherzer that, he doesn't need to go out on a minor league rehab assignment and make 4 or 5 starts. The teams, whoever he's been with, have trusted him to say, are you ready or not? And they're happy throwing him out there to throw 75 pitches. So it's very possible that Max Scherzer is in the big leagues next week. So keep that in mind. We'll continue to follow this storyline. I have him in one league. The one league I have him in is Tout Wars. He's been on my IL. I think I drafted him in the 27th round in that league or something like that, just like I did last year. Didn't work out last year. Let's hope it works out this year. It's still reasonable to think that Scherzer, when on the hill, will be effective. That's still very reasonable. Question is, when is he on the hill and how long does he stay there? But we're trending in the right direction, hopefully next week with Max Scherzer. I would look at him in most mixed leagues as a streaming option at this point. I think that's fair. Luis Heel, who's obviously missed all the time with the lat injury, is going to face batters on Saturday. Really good news there as he works his way back from the lat injury that is taking a long time to get back from. He's still weeks away, though. I mean, obviously getting up to throw some batting practice is a long way away from throwing in the major leagues. It's probably unlikely that he's back before the All-Star game. He's probably back at late July, maybe even early August, depending upon how it goes. Maybe that timeline gets sped up a little bit. Yankees could obviously use him, but I'm assuming that he will be out until after the All-Star break. Remember, there were moments last year where he was fantastic. There were moments last year when he was pretty bad, mostly great, but there were some moments where there was like, oh no, here we go, right? So it's really unclear who we're going to get when he's back out there. So I'm not saying that Luis Gil is a season saver or a guy that you got to get and that kind of stuff, but it's nice to see him moving in the right direction. His return to the Yankees, if he is who he's supposed to be, is like a trade, right? It's a huge move for the organization. And we'll see if in about a month or so, if he's able to return to being a guy that we can start every time out, like he was for most of the 2024 season. Eduardo Rodriguez. Next two starts, White Sox, Marlins. That should happen next week. So Eduardo Rodriguez is a decent streaming option given the matchups next week. He allowed 2 runs, 1 earned yesterday in 4 2/3 innings. Walked 3, struck out 4. Only 2 of the hits were extra base hits, so he didn't exactly get hit hard. He's been kind of who I've always thought he'd be, and that is just kind of a boring dude on the hill. The fact is that Eduardo Rodriguez is probably at this point really a streaming option, but he's a streaming option in good matchups, and White Sox and Marlins are 2 pretty good matchups. So though the numbers right now aren't great, though you never know with the spot start thing with Eduardo Rodriguez or any other pitcher, I think thinking the idea that you could spot start him next week makes some sense. So check that out if he's on your waiver wire after that effort yesterday. I see a comment here in chat. We're going to talk about him right now. Happy Thursday, Ray. Tough month for Taj Bradley. We're benching him until he hopefully gets straightened out. 7 runs yesterday, 6 of them earned in 1 1/3 innings against the Orioles. And we commented on this on the series show last night. Bradley, and I said last night on the show, one of these years, Bradley's going to strike out 200 guys and win 15 games. I think it's going to happen. The problem is for Bradley, he's deep enough into his career at this point where it's extremely fair to question whether or not he's really going to rise to level above a streamer. He's not Eduardo Cabrera, but he's more Eduardo Cabrera than a guy we can start 28 times a year. And it's really frustrating because when Bradley is right, he's really good. The problem this year is his off-speed stuff. He just really hasn't figured it out this year. He just hasn't had the feel on his pitches, and it just hasn't, he doesn't locate his pitches well. And, on the nights when his fastball's popping, he's okay. But on the nights where he's a little off with that, the other stuff just hasn't been able to bring him along. So, I was even reading something that, when we were concerned about whether Bradley would stay in the rotation, like, do they call up Joe Boyle or something like that? So I think that Bradley is not to the point where we're sending him to the bullpen. I don't think we're there yet with him, but it's getting a little concerning. So to answer your question, OSU, Buckeye, bench him at this point. And in some leagues, depending on your setups and who you go to, you might even drop him. I'm not anti that at this point, and it's really disappointing because I love the kid, his arm. We know he can go out there again and have a great season. We know he can go out there and dominate any opponent, but the consistency just hasn't been there. So yeah, totally fair to bench him at this point. Absolutely. And you might even kick the tires on making a replacement move, depending on your options. Finally, before we talk some football with Tyler Beaker, just wanted to give a little shout out to Carlos Estevez, who had another save last night. He was one of those guys, Estevez. It's like, he's your second closer. And it's like, okay, Carlos Estevez, middle rounds, all that kind of stuff. Got 20 saves. 20 saves, does Carlos Estevez. And his ERA dropped down to 1.99. I mean, his career best in saves is 31. He had 26 last year. He's on pace for 40-plus saves. Who predicted that? Raise your hand if you predicted that. Now put your hand down because you didn't predict that. Don't lie. No one predicted that. I think most people, including myself, said, look, if you get 20, 25 saves out of him, cool. He's at 20 right now. We're halfway through the year. So I just wanted to give him a shout out because we never talk about him. There's a lot of guys at this position we're always discussing, good and bad both, but goodness gracious. Carlos Estevez has really, really been effective. The strikeout rate is down. The walk rate is up. So there's definite concern moving forward. His 10.6 strikeout minus walk ratio, is 3 points below the league average. It's 4 points below his career average. Like, it's not a good number, and it portends some ratio concerns in the second half. But dude is racking up the saves and deserves a little bit of props. So there you go, Carlos Estevez, giving you your props. Okay. Every Thursday, we talk some football with Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. You can find him over at FG. He's part of the live stream every Tuesday. That's at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time at FG. He's debuted or released, I guess is a better way to put it, his best ball guide within the guide at fantasyguru.com. Remember to click that subscribe tab in the top right corner to get signed up. He's on the show every Thursday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. He's writing articles. He's in the Discord. He's our football guy over at fantasyguru.com. So let's bring him into the show today. The bearded one, Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. How you doing, Tyler?
What's going on, Ray? How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. You know, we've had the beard discussion on the show. I almost always have a beard as well. I tend to keep mine short because I just don't like it thicker. You tend to keep it thicker. You just like a little bit of something there, huh?
The wife does. I'll say there was a period during COVID where I didn't see anybody for months at a time. And it was probably down to the bottom of the screen here.
Right.
And I don't know if you have Facebook, but it does like these little time capsules, like remember when?
Yeah.
One of it was us doing a walk out in the woods, and it just happened yesterday. And he's like, I miss this beard. All the comments on it were like, what kind of critters are living in there?
Yeah. You know what's funny? I think I got one on Facebook like last week with my COVID beard, and I was same thing. It was like Jeff Mann's was like, Ray, are you okay? Like he's on the like, you're doing okay, Ray? I'm like, I'm fine. Why? He's like, you're weird. I'm okay. But yeah, well, I think a lot of us did that during COVID. Yeah. Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Again, join us every Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern Time. Before we dive into some specific questions here, Tyler, I want to give you a chance to plug the best ball guide again. Not all you do by any means over at FG, but it's a significant part of the preseason product. So talk us through what you've done and what the release was last week.
Yeah, we unveiled it last week. We brought out all of our rankings and content in terms of the strategies and roster construction pieces. I've got a new piece coming up today, which will talk about drafters specifically, who we have some great promo codes with. If you're listening to this, for anyone who's never played over at Drafters, they're a great platform. They're offering $500K up top in their big flagship tournament right here. And this is unlike other best ball sites. Drafters has a week 1 through 17, very vanilla total points scored over that span. There's no advancing through little brackets or anything like that. It's just most points scored weeks 1 through 17. I've got a big article coming out today, which will have stacks to target teams that I'm interested in from varying different draft points, like whether you're given an early selection, like picks 1 through 3. I bracketed it into 4 different subsections: 1 through 3, 4 through 6, 7 through 9, 10 through 12, because where you're drafting can often dictate how you draft in terms of the players and stacks available to you as the draft unfolds. I've also got some other ways to look at it, whether you miss out on some of your premium selections in terms of combining them to create a stack, some backdoor stacks in the middle rounds, the late rounds, tons of different content coming up. I'm really excited for that article. It's one of my favorites to do. I'll probably post another one a month from now because ADP will shift, and those players that are available on the back end of like the 10 through 12 turn, there may be some players that shift towards the late middle or the middle rounds, and we're going to have to readjust as that information comes in. But for those drafting now, it should be a very, very helpful resource, and I'm hoping that one of us over at FG takes home this big contest. I believe we have done so in 2 of the last 4 years. If I'm not mistaken, I heard Jeff shouting that out on his One Man's Opinion pod recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's hope. And obviously, Tyler and the whole crew are there to help you out to attain that goal over at fantasyguru.com. Again, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner to get set up. Before we talk some specific players, Tyler, I wanted to ask you, because you obviously give all this advice on how to be successful in a best ball format. What do you think is one of the biggest blunders, biggest mistakes people make? Like if you had to say, looking at best ball scenarios, this is a mistake I've identified a lot of people making, what would that be?
Not stacking enough. Stacking to me is table stakes, where you need to do it. If you're not doing it, you're really leaving money on the table. And it's because of the correlation. Whenever like the wide receiver and the quarterback on the same team score a touchdown, we get the points for both those players. You're double dipping essentially. To leave those kinds of points on the table and not really aggressively pursue some of the stacks just feels like you're not giving yourself a legitimate shot at coming in first. Remember, we're facing hundreds of thousands of contestants in these large field tournaments. In order to come home with first place and that life-changing money, you need to maximize the little small micro edges. They do stack up time after time. One of those being among the most basic, stacking. So make sure you're pairing your quarterbacks with your elite receivers when you have the chance. And if not, cancel the draft and try another one.
Well, there you go. Don't make that mistake, folks. Otherwise, you're just giving money away, according to Tyler.
Yes.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. One of the main things you do in season is track wide receivers and defensive backfield matchups and that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of news about wide receivers in the news, right? A lot of news about wide receivers in the news, I was going to say, and then realized that was redundant, but you get the point. A lot of wide receivers to talk about. So let's go through some of that information that we're hearing right now, Tyler. And the first situation is with the Browns. Now, of course, this is a very difficult situation to get a handle on for the entire offense because we just don't know who the quarterback is going to be. Is it going to be Pickett or Gabriel or Sanders or Flacco? We just don't know. Stylistically, the offense operates very differently with those guys. So, do the best you can here with the question with this group. We're seeing two guys. One, we're hearing a lot about Cedric Tillman and the excitement about Cedric Tillman. Though he's dealing with a minor injury, I don't think that's a big deal. So one, kind of what are your thoughts on Cedric Tillman, who looks like kind of the alpha here? And two, what are your thoughts with Diontae Johnson, who, I guess he's going to be their slot receiver this year. He was on like 14 teams last year. I don't know what he's got left, but it does look like he's going to have a role here with the Browns. What are your thoughts with the receiving core at this point?
I will interject and say Jerry Jeudy should be the alpha in this offense here in terms of the passing pecking order.
Yeah, thank you.
Big year one from him. I'm expecting another big year too, honestly. This team now knows what he does best, and I think they're in a good spot to maximize him in 2025. I like him at his draft cost in like the round 4, round 5 range. But Tillman, he's another player that the staff is really high on. They've been praising his size, his strength, his athleticism. They also mentioned some inside and outside versatility, which I found very fascinating, given that we kind of just think of him as a perimeter outside threat. Going off the board right now, kind of in an interesting spot in drafts where it's a no man's land window in terms of the wide receivers available. The guys immediately after him, to me, feel like a tier drop. So he's kind of the end of a tier where the guys going after him are like Adam Thielen, Jalen McMillan, Quentin Johnston. I'd rather have the dice roll on Tillman over all those options. And he's a guy that I think we've seen in spurts play really well. Unfortunately, injury has kind of been the red flag on his profile, unfortunately. But this guy's got some big playability. We saw Jalin Hyatt, his old teammate at Tennessee, win the Biletnikoff Award after Tillman went down with injury. So I can only think what Tillman may have done in that role with that type of volume himself. I'm in on his at cost because he doesn't really cost anything and there's a lot of upside to be had. Diontae to me is just a true wild card. I don't think he can be anything more than that after what we saw in 2024, playing with multiple organizations. And when I say wild card, he's a player that I would really only select in best ball formats where we are going 20 rounds deep. In your typical home league, you don't need to make that wild card selection. But he's really just in a platform specific kind of selection for me where even then it's really just a dice roll. Maybe if you're struggling with those stacks that I mentioned early, you try to backdoor Cleveland here. But it's tough to get super excited about Diontae after what we saw last year. It was just complete mayhem.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. Tyler, what about the situation with the Bills? Like, we think of the Bills and we think of, Josh Allen vying for MVP awards and 35, 40 touchdowns out of the guy and all this great offense. The receiving core is kind of, okay. Khalil Shakir seems to be the number one guy, but he's obviously not a number one, and his numbers weren't huge last year. They've got Josh Palmer and Elijah Moore and Curtis Samuel. Like, they've got some weapons here. But Keon Coleman, I think, is really important to this squad. Talk to us about Keon Coleman. There were moments last year he ended up with a fractured wrist that kind of hurt him in the second half of the season. But it seems like he's a guy that the Bills really need to step up this season. Do you think that's the case? Do you think he can do that?
I'll argue they don't need to after seeing Josh Allen win the MVP with the cast of characters he had last season. And I'm sorry, I'm going to continue to be a hater on Keon Coleman until he proves me otherwise. This guy struggled with separation at FSU, and we saw that carry over into the NFL. There were 91 receivers with 100-plus routes last year. He was dead last among all that group in separation. Then we had Josh Palmer into the mix, who was number 4 best in this statistic. I think he's really brought in to help in this department, really help Josh Allen in the deep passing game where Allen threw pretty deep at a pretty elevated rate, but the catch rate for the Buffalo Bills on deep targets specifically really bottom dwelling. So I think Palmer was a big addition to the squad. I like the Elijah Moore addition too. He's a player that maybe he's just had a really poor run on quarterbacks that he's played with, but Moore maybe I just can't get over the rookie profile, the Ole Miss profile, where I'm still in love with him as a prospect. I just can't quit him in dynasty formats. But Coleman, he should get among the he should be among the team's league leaders in route participation. I think he's going to be on the field. That round 1 draft capital, they're not going to just throw it away. The problem that I have is the separation thing, which, okay, yeah, that's not great, but even if we throw in the context of a wrist injury, that doesn't change anything in terms of separation.
Shouldn't.
So I'm a bit apprehensive here with Coleman. I'm going to let others draft him, to be honest. It sounds like you're on a different page with me than Coleman, which is fine. I'm just curious to hear your bull argument on him.
I don't really have one, to be honest, other than I'm looking at the rest of the receiving core and going,
Yeah, that's fair.
And and again, I'm not chasing, Coleman. I'm not bumping his ADP. I'm not drafting him everywhere. He's not a must get for me. If I'm a little warmer on him than you are, still it's very lukewarm. Is there a second receiver then with the Bills that you want to draft? Like, is it Josh Palmer and just take him as your 5th receiver and see what happens kind of thing?
Wouldn't we love it for it to be Dalton Kincaid, a guy they spent round 1 capital on the season prior? Fortunately, last year just didn't really do well. Really bottom dwelling in a lot of metrics there, unfortunately. But maybe he's the guy. Maybe he's the guy that takes a step forward, and it just takes some time where I think we've become accustomed to many tight ends hitting the ground running. Not everyone does. I looked at David Njoku. It took 5-6 years for him to finally break out. Maybe we see a year 3 breakout for Kincaid at a bit of a suppressed price.
Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com. Let's move to the Texans. We talked about this team again, but we're starting to get some more hype in the beat reporters. We're hearing that Jayden Higgins is basically a cinch to be the wide receiver 2 on this team with the Texans. We've obviously got Collins and Kirk, the 2 veterans. Then they brought in Noel and Higgins, the youngsters, a cast of other guys there. Jayden Higgins, excited about him?
I am, yeah. I'm excited about what this Texans team did this offseason, trying to surround Stroud with some more potential in terms of production. We saw this team really take a step backwards after the losses of Diggs and Tank Dell. Higgins, to me, just a 6'4", big 220-pound outside guy. I'm buying the coach hyperbole where they've been talking him up. D'Amico Ryans went so far as to call him an impact player. They spent high draft capital on him. I think he's a legitimate outside weapon, and this is a team that's going to be running out 3 receiver sets often. Offensive coordinator Nick Caley comes from the Rams coaching staff. Rams last year, number 2 in rate of 11 personnel, which is 3 receiver sets at 81.3. The only team higher than them was Atlanta, who had Zach Robinson, a former Rams disciple as well from that same tree, at 85.5%. So I'm expecting the Texans to have this guy, Jayden Higgins, a early round 2 selection, frequently involved in the offense, frequently on the field, and become fantasy relevant rather sooner than later. I think he's on the wide receiver 4 flex cusp right now, and a guy that I'm confidently drafting. He and Christian Kirk. I think those are great guys that you can get in the, around 9+ range where they're probably going to exceed their value.
Tyler, what about the situation with the Raiders? Obviously, we all spend the time talking about Brock Bowers, Nash, and Genty, but Pete Carroll's now the new head coach. They brought in a new quarterback in Geno Smith, so things are changing here. Jack Bech obviously was the wide receiver that everyone was looking at and getting excited about, and we're getting reports that he spent team time with the team, second team offense. Diontae Thornton was the guy with the ones. So now people are concerned that Bech isn't going to be the guy everyone expected him to be. I mean, you look at the receiving core and it's Jacoby Myers, and kind of everyone's expecting Bech to be the number 2 here. Do you take anything away from storylines like this? I mean, it's so early. Is this actionable data at all when it comes to the young receiver with the Raiders?
I love the way you phrase this question, because the information age is like a double-edged sword where it's almost too much information. Not every minor detail needs to be scrutinized and be reported. But I think we should remember that we are looking for positive drum beats at this time of year. We want the consistent positive drum beats. It's something I'm probably going to repeat as on these shows every Thursday as we talk and get through these the weeds of summer. This is one red flag for Bech, but it's only June. There's plenty of time left in the process. I'm not making any moves now in terms of adjusting expectations for him, for Thornton, for any of these pass catchers, really. But it is something to be aware of, something to jot down a little mental note and see where we go from here a month from now. See if these rookies, which sometimes take some time to develop and learn routes and learn coach tendencies, sometimes it's not an immediate click for every single player. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. But it is something I'm taking note of right now, just not making any moves with it.
Tyler Beaker, FantasyGuru.com. I asked this question earlier in the week to Armando Marcelo, and I wanted to ask you as well. A couple years ago, the Raiders got their guy at tight end, Mayer, excuse me. last year the draft went in a way that they ended up having to take Brock Bowers because he was there. And then Mayer dealt with things off the field last year, wasn't on the field all the time, all that kind of stuff. Well, now he's one of these guys that like every report is he's the best. He's fantastic. He's going to be on the field a lot. He's going to see the ball. Is there a role in this offense? Because I know Geno Smith doesn't usually throw to the tight end, and I don't know if that's, they've got a tight end they're going to throw the ball to anyway. Is it the inline guy is going to be Mayer and Bowers is just going to be the slot guy? Like, how do you see the offense playing out here with the Raiders? And what are your thoughts on Mayer? Just some nice storylines and no actionable data there?
Yeah, he had a turbulent 2024 with some off-field stuff, which I think they've kind of kept private in terms of what it actually was. But he's having an outstanding camp in terms of everything I've read too. He and Brock Bowers continue to push each other. I thought this was a hilarious quote from Chip Kelly, their offensive coordinator. He said, "I checked. You can play with 2 tight ends in the game at the same time. And sometimes you can play with 3 tight ends," they told me.
True. I don't think he normally does that. I don't think that's Chip Kelly's MO, but it is true. Yeah.
I think there's a chance we see him being Michael Mayer as that Y inline tight end and Brock Bowers being the guy that moves around the formation. I always say that I think Bowers is more of a offensive weapon rather than singularly a tight end because he's used all over the formation. They are using him at a receiver. He's aligned out wide. I think like 40% of his snaps last year were outside on the perimeter. That's unheard of for tight ends. Very high slot rate as well. Rarely in line. Rarely called into block. I think this guy is just a wide receiver masquerading at the tight end position. So I'm very bullish on Brock Bowers. I think Michael Mayer is an interesting selection in any kind of tight end premium formats, but particularly deeper formats. There's a 28-round FFPC draft kind of format that you could go in. That would be the specific format I would target Mayer in. Outside of that, I think you really only want to be targeting Mayer in dynasty tight end premium formats as a pickup and stash, maybe a throw in some other deals. Because he has the capital. He had a really productive Notre Dame career. And this guy just got, unfortunately, bulldozed by one of a generational tight ends coming into the same team with high early draft capital, and Bowers hit the ground running. I question the fantasy value of Mayer this season, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was just a situation where he needs to run it out, land on a second team, and maybe that second contract being where Mayer takes flight.
Tyler, another question another player that I asked actually this week to Armand, so I wanted to get your take too, is Jordan Addison. We spent a lot of time the last calendar year talking about Rashee Rice and a potential suspension for him. I haven't talked much about Jordan Addison, who's got a DUI case pending. I guess his court case is coming up here pretty soon. We know how the NFL does this. They wait until the court rules and then they step in. So it seems like this is next month kind of thing could happen. There could be a suspension here for Jordan Addison. In fact, there's probably likely to be a suspension. It might be 1 or 2 games. Maybe it's a little bit longer. Does this news impact your draft thought process with Jordan Addison, who scored 10 touchdowns each of his 2 years? I know people are always excited about drafting him. Are you excited about drafting him given the concern now about the legal complications?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something to monitor. The pre-trial date is set for this DUI, but I'll be honest, that doesn't really mean much because it's still in limbo. It could move at any time. There could be so many factors that could change this. What we do know is that the NFL's personal conduct policy says the league can suspend a player for 3 games regardless of whether or not they plead guilty to an impaired driving offense, which is exactly what this is. If it does move forward, I would expect a 1 to 3 game suspension to start the year, which in my eyes, it would benefit Jalen Naylor probably the most, the incumbent wide receiver 3 on the squad, over the rookie like Ty Felton, who's probably, I don't know, maybe still learning the ropes. There's a steep learning curve for the NFL. So I would think Naylor would be the guy that would benefit the most, but I'm not impacting my draft selections of Addison at this time because I feel like this is such like a question mark at this point. We don't know enough. Is it going to happen? Is it going to be pushed to another year? Is there a suspension at all? Does he take a plea deal? It does go to a jury. Like there's just a lot of question marks here. I'm not letting it impact me because I'm super bullish on this offense as a whole. Kevin O'Connell, year after year, a very, very explosive offense in terms of their passing rate. He's getting the most out of quarterbacks year after year. And it's just a great environment for fantasy production. And I don't want to let the offseason concerns, offseason question marks of something that we cannot control dictate how I draft right now. So I'm still drafting Addison as that like fringe wide receiver 3. I think he's like in that 36 to 40 kind of range where he's almost on the wide receiver 4 boundary. but I think there's a lot of upside. It's just touchdowns. That's a tough thing for him to replicate year after year. He proved that wrong in year 2. Another big touchdown-filled campaign with another quarterback under center. We'll see how he does in year 3. I'm excited for it, and I think this is a guy that maybe we get a bit of a discount come September, but right now I'm not changing anything because it's, again, just filled with too many question marks.
Last Friday with Russell Clay, he did a review. We spent about 25, 30 minutes reviewing my dynasty football team. The redraft.
Excellent show.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Redraft, 12 teams, 45 rounds, all that kind of stuff. We mentioned Ty Felton right at the end there because I think I drafted him in the 39th round. Good move there? You think there's a future potentially for Felton, or is that you have just kind of a throwaway pick there?
No, I really like him. He was a guy that set the record for most receptions at Maryland. Very, very athletic score in terms of RAS, relative athletic score. This guy jumps into an offense, like I said, it's been top 6 in pass rate over expectation ever since Kevin O'Connell took over. This is a team that wants to throw the ball, even with the changes that we've seen year after year with multiple quarterbacks. They continue year after year under O'Connell to continue to push the ball through the air. I'm not expecting that to change with McCarthy, who has one of the strongest arms and a very accurate arm. I'm excited for this Minnesota team. They're one of my favorites to be a breakout, which kind of feels cheap to say after a 14-win campaign the year prior, pardon me. But I think they're a team that can easily repeat as a double-digit win squad, and this defense got so much better in the offseason with the personnel they've added. I'm very, very excited for Minnesota, and I'm very, very excited for all these pieces, Felton included. He's a guy that I think it could potentially have sleeper appeal. Maybe he takes over that wide receiver 3 spot from Naylor over the back half of the year. For that reason, I'm kind of targeting him as like a round 20 selection in some of these best ball drafts.
And you did like my dynasty team, or you just like the fact that we talked about it on the show?
Both.
Well, good. Yeah, it was. And again, if anyone missed it, check it out. It's from last Friday's show. It was a lot of fun. I threw my team up on the screen. We went through the offense, the defense. We went through the first, I think, 4 rounds in depth, and then my team in particular. So everyone can check that out. Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. Final question for you, final scenario to discuss. We spent a lot of time with the Giants talking about the quarterback position and obviously the backfield situation, and then, of course, Malik Neighbors. Let's go a little bit deeper than that with the Giants. Again, this is another one of those situations we're assuming it's Russell Wilson. How long will it be Russell Wilson? We're not sure. What is the outlook of Darius Slayton, who they gave a big, I think, $3 or $36 million contract, something like that, too? They gave a pretty substantial extension to him. What's his outlook? And then Jalin Hyatt, who was drafted and supposed to be a guy who hasn't done anything for this offense, but apparently hit the weight room this offseason. So he's trying really hard to make changes here. Talk us through both Slayton and Hyatt and what you're seeing with the wideouts with the Giants.
Yeah, Hyatt may have hit the weight room a bit too hard. Pulled a David Boston leg injury right now. Currently was unable to go after Tuesday's practice, which was a recent report. So that will be something to monitor, which is tough. I mean, Hyatt last year in a down season where there was nothing going for the squad, he was unable to get on the field. That really just screams for a guy that had the draft capital that he had, and the fact that they needed wide receiver help. So I'm all the way out as you can be on a player. I want nothing to do with Jalin Hyatt. Darius Slayton, on the other hand, I feel like the Giants bid against themselves, giving him a 3-year, $36 million contract, or maybe they just rewarded him for some previous production that he had. That said, I think he's a guy that Wan'Dale Robinson and Malik Neighbors, they're shoo-in for the 3 receiver sets. It's going to be those 3 guys and Theo Johnson and tight end. I like the grouping. Slayton, big field stretcher, great dynamic. We know what he is. He's a better and best ball player. He's a 60% Deshaun Jackson. Like we know what to expect from him. 3 to 4 blow-up games. You'll never be able to pick them if a redraft starts at format. They're just going to come sporadically. So just take your shots in best ball. Don't worry about it in redraft.
I actually had him the dynasty draft last year. We were a 16-team league, and I had him. He was like my 6th receiver. And there were some moments, right? You're saying like, let's throw him out there, and oh look, 18 points. That's great. But yeah, obviously limited in a redraft 10, 12-team league scenario. Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com. Tyler, what do you got coming up at FG? You had the whiteboard. You cranked things out the last couple of weeks here. What haven't we seen yet that's coming down the pipe for you?
The whiteboard's empty. I'm looking at it right now. We're scratching things off. We're scratching things off. It feels good.
Okay.
Yeah, it feels good. I've got a big article coming out today, like I told you at the start of the show, on drafters specifically.
Yep.
We've also got some promo codes hidden in there. I'll share it in the article for some people that want to play that have never played before and people that have previously played and want a reload bonus. We got one as well for you there. Nice. So excited for that one. Beyond that, I'm going to be looking at some best ball ranking updates. And then after that, I think I'm going to be looking at some futures again. Take another wave through all the player futures, win totals, yardage totals, because not every sports book releases those at the same time. The yardage one specifically. Some come out sporadically, and some do it in waves where they're like, yeah, we'll do the top 12 receivers, and then a month later we'll do the top 30 receivers. So I'm gonna go through it all again with a fine tooth comb, because every book is also different. Like we could see a yardage gap of 200 to 300 yards in a passing market, which is notable if you're taking an over and under. Yeah. Or if you want to middle it, there's plenty of options. So I'll have a lot of betting stuff coming out, I think, next week. Other than that, as far as draft guide content, my next big thing is our wide receiver coverage scheme matchups. But that's not until mid-July. So got a little bit of a hiatus. So it's going to be time to crank out the best ball content to fill in that void.
Well, that article takes like 3 weeks to write, right? Like that's not an easy article to write.
I'll be starting after the 4th of July. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I've read it. I know it's a lot of work. And I always, as someone who does this, we always try to make it really simple in the article, but then you don't always see the data behind the scenes. Because sometimes football is really interesting to me, because in baseball, like I find it much easier to find data. You can go to websites and download Excel sheets and do all this kind of stuff. Football, you kind of got to ham and egg this thing together. At least that's been my experience. A little bit here, a little bit there, grab this, do that. So it's a lot of work behind the scenes for some of the stuff, isn't it, Todd?
I've got a lot of websites in my bookmarks bar for that exact reason, with multiple subcategories. Absolutely. You got to find the spots, but once you have your geared resources, you're going to set yourself up for success.
Tyler Beaker joins us every Thursday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. You can catch him here. You can catch him sometimes on the SiriusXM show. You can find him all the time over in Discord at FG. Again, you can find him on the live stream 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Tuesday nights. You can find him involved in that draft guide that we've both been mentioning heavily here. Get signed up at FG. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. Full season coverage, not just the preseason, full season coverage. And as you can see there on the screen, PPR, non-PPR, best ball, IDP, dynasty, rookie, all those ranking setups in addition to all the other work is available for you. Get signed up right now at fantasyguru.com. Tyler, any big weekend plans before we let you go?
I am actually doing a bachelor weekend. My wife went up to visit her horse in New Jersey, so I'm just chilling here, and I just got some groceries delivered, ready for some steaks tonight.
Yeah, I did that about a month ago. It's kind of nice, right? It's like, yeah, I just walked around, drinking a beer and wearing a dirty shirt and watching some movies.
Yeah, I got some movies queued up. I'm going to rip a few best ball drafts while they're going on in the background. Yeah, it should be a good time.
There we go. Well, you enjoyed that. We'll check in next week and find out how it went. Thanks for joining us today and all the information that you shared. We appreciate it. And we'll talk to you in 7 days.
All right. Thanks for having me on, and have a good one.
You too. He's Tyler Beaker. I'm Ray Flowers. It's been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, which means we'll be back tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we'll talk some football with Russell Clay after opening up the show with baseball talk. For Tyler Beaker, I am Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. We'll see you on Friday.